I think mission obviously is very important, but it doesn't need to be conflicted with like cause. I think if you're looking to create a brand, obviously you need to have some form of purpose there. But really, the priority in creating a brand, in my opinion, is
Talk in terms of mindset, right? Now you're a seven-figure brand. But when you started, if you could
yeah.
go, like, what mindset mistakes were you making as a startup versus now you have the clarity on and you're like, man, if I could just like drill this into my head, like starting off, like what would be that shift in your mind?
Um, Again, I think from a branding and marketing perspective, because of my experience with Wonderful and DJing and touring. Look, man, the music industry is just a series of no's. Everybody's going to tell you no until you hit that like one yes, and then you kind of graduate to this next grade. And I think because of the successes and failures I had in that world, that sort of built the mindset to know and understand that like it's going to be a series of no's. And if you're looking at it from a business standpoint, the conversion rate's not going to be there at first, and then it's going to incrementally get better and better. But that was really the mindset was built before we launched OneBone, at least from a branding and marketing standpoint. And then my partners, fortunately, they had 35 plus years of experience in fashion. So all the hurdles from a year one clothing and trying to figure it out on your own mentality, that was kind of out the window for them as well, because it's not a 3-year-old brand. Essentially, it's a 45 plus year old brand that is just birthed in 3 years from a production standpoint and logistics standpoint, and then from a marketing standpoint, it's like a 15-year-old brand. So I think that, again, the failures and successes that you experience in trying to create a community and build a business out of music and entertaining people and jumping from club to club and crowd to crowd, that's what built the sort of resilience that you need to launch a brand from scratch.
So then how important is it for you to have a mission, for example, like to have a brand story, something that drives you? And I guess, what does OneBone stand for?
I think mission obviously is very important, but it doesn't need to be conflicted with like cause. I think if you're looking to create a brand, obviously you need to have some form of purpose there. But really, the priority in creating a brand, in my opinion, is number one, you need to have a great product. Number two, you need to be ready to build a community. And that's really what it's all about. It's about building a community. And fortunately, that's the most organic thing we could be doing, because as a big man or as a hard to fit man, you want to sort of share the wealth when you find a t-shirt that fits you perfectly, and you see another guy walking down the street that isn't wearing a t-shirt that works so well, and it's like you're empowered. It's like your gift to change that guy's world. Even on our new hang tags, like we put our QR code to offer it out as a business card, so when you get our t-shirts, it's like you have the power to like share that brand physically with either a friend, a family member, or someone in the street. And I mean, what OneBone stands for is really just taking a community of people who had been marginalized in the fashion world, but yet they're the majority. If you look at the average waist size in the States or in North America, it's 40, and by the time you get to 40 in a mall, you're hard pressed to find a 40. Now a lot of brands and a lot of companies are starting to make changes, and body positivity movement and just like taking those necessary steps. But that's what we stand for, is like the guy who is the majority but treated like the minority. Let's treat them the way they deserve to be treated.
I mean, so you talked about community, and I totally believe you, and I agree with you that community is super huge. But was that the priority from day one when you guys started off, or was that just a byproduct of you going to the DMs and reaching out, trying to sell and trying to do market research? Or did you do it with the knowledge of community is going to be our number one thing in order to grow this brand? I got to start laying the foundation.
Well, that's the beauty behind having strategic partners, because it's not like I'm in charge of production, and it's not like I'm in charge of logistics, and we all sort of fit into our own world very well. So where the pillar for my partner Matt, for example, is production, and to make sure the quality is absolutely pristine, and if it's not, how do we deal with that, and how do we pivot and evolve? And then from a logistics and a customer service standpoint, that's my other partner, Sam. And he just makes sure that that whole world is completely taken care of, where I can take care of my pillar and my priority, which is community building and making sure that there's, a stream of content, there's a stream of relatability. And again, it's like, it's the most organic thing that we can possibly do, because our brand is for us. Like it was literally custom made for my body before we started One Bone. So being 6'3", 300 pounds plus, you don't fit in unless you see that other guy in the street that kind of looks like you. I have a moment that stands out, being like in a very big crowd in a small place at this place in Montreal, Burgundy Lion. And a buddy of mine now, who I didn't know at all, everyone's tight, everyone's cramped in there, and people are drinking and having a good time. And from across the room, you see another big guy that is 6 foot plus and probably in the neighborhood of that 300-pound club or whatever. And it's just like, everyone's super cramped. And it's like, I see you, bro. We've got the same struggles. We're here together. And it's like that sense of community happens kind of whether you like it or not. So again, like that's my priority in this brand. And that's honestly what I was so excited about, and we are so excited about with One Bone, is finding other guys that have had similar issues and relating with them. And it's such a blessing now that we have friends mostly all over North America, but widespread throughout the world, that like, if we go to any city, and we're really excited once the pandemic is done to be sharing that time with people, you've got friends all across the world, and you've got that little connection in the bar through a t-shirt now,
So what tips do you have for the listeners on building a community, right? So if I'm listening right now and I'm like, cool, I'm bought in a community, but sounds way easier, said than done. And you've done it successfully and wildly successfully, I should add. What tips do you have for the listeners?
It's one by one, man. And interestingly enough, that's in our name, 1v1. And so it's one by one. It's not just an explosion. It's creating real, authentic, meaningful relationships with people, so that they're not like, man, the guys who come through our store, they're not buying from like, a no-face brand. They're sending us messages now. They're sending us messages, whereas in the beginning we were sending them messages, but they're sending us messages with the hope that like, we're going to respond. And not only do we respond, but you're responding with a voice memo, you're responding with a text message, and like, yo, so happy you're here. And again, like, it sounds a little bit acted out the way I just did it, but like, it's so authentic. I am so happy you're here. And you're hitting them with like just a FaceTime on Instagram because they message you and they're like, oh my God, this isn't just a company. There's people behind it. So it's one by one, and it's really being authentic in building that community and wanting to meet these people, learn about who they are and why you're going to be able to help them and how you could help them even more.